please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
So just presenting these, restaurant application. Standing Stones is a new sidewalk application that has been approved, and the outside consumption permit. And then Sour Hall Foods has a third, a first, and an outside consumption.
And what's their conditional on?
The conditional is payment.
Okay. Any staff concerns with any of these applications? I don't believe any of them are present in the room or Zoom. Any questions?
No.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve all of these licenses with the 2 conditional pending payment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That is the end of the Liquor Control Board meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. 6:01, I'll now call to order the City Council meeting. Any agenda review is first. Any changes to the order of tonight's agenda?
No.
No.
Okay. We'll move on to public comment. So public comment is reserved for public comments on items not included on tonight's agenda. If you're here for the Dion Lafountain scoping study, we'll take public comment at that time as well. It shouldn't be too long before we get to it. If you're here for something not on this evening's agenda, now would be the time. I know you were, Carolyn, is it?
Yes, Carol can.
Carol,
And
yes.
good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you. I did have an email, I'm assuming you know I'm here about speed bumps because I've been here before, but I did have an email from John Rosher saying that there would be no money in the budget to do the evaluation of our street. And I was hoping, and I'm saying this with some sense of humor, that there was some money left over in the budget because we didn't have much winter and maybe there wasn't that much salt or overtime, so there might be some money left for my street. And in lieu of that, is there anyone, if nothing's possible to do for our street, do you all have an idea what we can do to slow our traffic down?
Well, I actually have good news for you because at our last meeting, we approved $10,000 of reserve funds for 2 traffic evaluations.
Oh,
I cannot
wonderful.
say if, since that time, what streets have been determined to be priority, but we can have staff follow up with you.
Okay, I thought we were somewhere near the top of the list when it was talked about before. And we also talked about the striping or having like a long Star Wars stop going towards the stop signs or slow down or something like that. And I don't know, have they done all the striping yet?
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're still working on it.
Is that possible that can be in there?
I would have to
something?
have staff follow up with you after the
Okay.
meeting.
So, okay, so there's $10,000 and how that may or may not involve my street?
It's enough funding for 2 evaluations over
Okay.
this fiscal year.
Okay,
But I don't know which ones have been prioritized
okay.
offhand.
And when would we find out if we made the list?
I would have to, we would have to follow up with staff after the meeting to get back to you.
Okay, so someone could get back to me?
Yes,
And do you have my email address?
I'm sure John
Please.
knows.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
That's great, wonderful, wow, I can't wait to hear from anyone, John.
We will follow up with you, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see a hand raised in Zoom as well. Just waiting for them to be, was anyone else in here for public comment? Sure, welcome, come up. As you know, please state your name.
Yep. My name's Felipe Hoyos. I live on Hickok Street. I'm actually here to speak about the ULUDR. But on a separate note, I wanted to make a couple of requests. I've spoken to John Rauscher a few times. It's been better part of a year since I last followed up, but the lights at
Hi, everybody. Just having a little bit of technical difficulties. If anybody can hear me in the room,
We can hear you,
maybe
Paul.
not. Need Town Meeting TV to sign in. Okay, you can hear me. That might be David Dabney. Hold on, let me just
Sorry about that.
figure that out.
Do you know what account we're supposed to be signed into?
I'm asking.
Sorry for the delay while we resolve the technical challenge.
TMTV has an account.
A Zoom account?
I thought so.
Why would we sign into a different?
Yeah, he said it was Town Meeting TV account.
Okay, just 1 second, I'm communicating with her
Okay.
at Keeperson.
It's been a while since we've had technical difficulties.
It's always so dialed.
Good elevator music.
Are we not able, because normally we're promoted to be like a co-host or something, right? Isn't that
What? How are you signed in right now?
Signed in as Steven.
Ah.
Thanks for being patient, everybody. It sounds like Town Meeting TV is reaching out to their IT people, so just give it another second.
He should be able to promote you now that he knows which one you are. Stephen Heron?
Yes.
There you go. Christine, did you want to redo?
Recording in progress.
Do you want to summarize liquor?
Okay, Stephen, you should be all set.
Tell me TV was recording.
Paul,
Who's
can you hear
recording?
us?
I can hear you now.
Does that mean that you didn't hear anything up until now?
That's correct.
Okay.
There's Stephen, there's an account that Town Meeting TV has that integrates with the recording. I don't know if you can do that from your account here. Usually just says Town Meeting TV.
Right, yeah, we must have been doing some sort of technical testing here and signed out of our normal account and into a different one. But, so are we okay now, or do I still have to find the other account? 'Cause I don't, sorry, everyone.
You may still have to use the other account because I only see some sort of integration with your software, with your streaming software.
Because
Usually we see like a symbol that says like NDI recording. So it's some integration with your software and the Zoom account that you're using.
because
I don't know what,
when they go to edit, it'll be painful, correct? Paul?
it'll just be what's in the room. And I mean, nobody who's on right now will be able to see what's going on in the room without that integration.
Right, I do have the virtual camera on. There should be something. But just see if I can call someone who knows more about this. I'm so sorry, everyone. Apologies.
Everyone has learning curve.
Hi, Drew. Okay. Sounds like we're signed into Steven's account, and that seems to be the problem, that we're normally signed into a different account. They're not seeing like the NDI stream on Zoom. Mm-hmm. yeah, we do see that, but apparently, okay. Yeah.
Looks like we have visual.
Are we all set now, Paul?
It looks to be that way. I think for the sake of everybody else in the Zoom attendees, I don't know if procedurally we need to restart or what, but
No.
Yeah, I think we're okay technically, Andrew, thank you.
okay.
So sorry about that, I did not realize but.
Okay,
Might wanna rename
Mm.
the show Steve.
so during the technical problem, we approved all 3 items on the consent agenda of our liquor control meeting, kicked off city council meeting, and we're here in public comment. Sorry, Felipe, could you please restart?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I have a couple requests. The first being related to the floodlights, street lighting at 32 Mallets Bay Avenue between Butternut condos and the library. They are extremely bright. I've reached out to John Rauscher a few times. He mentioned that the electricians were going to install sort of shades, kind of light blockers to prevent the throw. And walking past there, you do see some installed on some of the lamps, but the problem is really that all of them throw light in all directions. So it's not just the tenants at Butternut condos, but also residents on Hickok Street. It comes in through my bedroom window, so I would just appreciate a follow-up and a good guidance to the electricians about what the problem is and how they need to resolve it. So that's one. And then second, I would just like to request that we daylight the intersection right around the corner there where the youth boxing center is. The bus comes up there. There's always cars parked there. It says no parking from, some distance away from the corner, but everyone ignores the sign. I propose you just put a planter there. I think it's like a very cost-effective solution. I don't think it really needs any study. The bus needs to be able to make that turn. People need to be able to see who's crossing, who's preparing to cross into the intersection before making the turn in their cars. Right now, it's completely blind because of people parking in that place where they shouldn't be. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was anyone else here for public comment, not for item on the agenda? Anyone on Zoom?
Somebody, I don't know if that person still has them.
Okay. We'll move to the consent agenda next. The first item is the City Council Liquor Control Board and Cannabis Control Commission minutes from April 15th. Aurora, you were not present for that one, correct?
Correct.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve that item?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And abstain?
Abstain.
All right. And then we have our remaining consent agenda items, the payroll warrant, accounts payable, annual financial plan for town highways, resolutions recognizing the month of May as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, Older Americans Month, and Mental Health Awareness Month, and the fiscal year 2024 audit contract award, and the job description for the fire captain role that we approved in this past budget. Any questions on the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Charlie, second by Thomas. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up is council reports. Aurora, would you like to start?
Certainly. So on April 18th, we had our every other month meeting of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission. The next meeting will be in June. After ambassador updates, our primary discussion was around the Equity Action Committee, which is a short-term standing committee to help advise the joint school and city community meeting that will go over the equity audit findings again, talking about how to prioritize items, deciding on some next steps, finding ways for the community to engage in doing some of that equity work as well. And members of the Inclusion and Belonging Commission were invited to take part in that. In addition to that discussion, there was continued interest in having either a combined meeting with the Housing Commission and the Inclusion and Belonging Commission, as well as having the possibility of Jasmine Hurley to come speak directly with the commission, hopefully in June. So that's something that we're looking into, and if folks want to join in that, I highly encourage it. I know housing is a big topic. I was also able to attend the International Food Festival held at the Winooski Community College of Vermont location, which was very well attended and just a lot of joy. So I wanted to thank the folks that put that on and engaged our community members in it.
Thank you. Councilor Oakley.
Sure. The Airport Commission meets this Wednesday, May 8th. That'll be at 4 o'clock, online or in person. The agenda is on the Burlington City website. Agenda items include funding authorization for upgrading terminal lighting for LEDs and controls for occupancy sensors, natural lights to reduce their energy demand. Funding authorization to hire a consulting firm to study collection, treatment, and disposal options for de-icing liquid. And recurring, there are a number of other topics, but found those notable. And then other standing items, agenda items are sound insulation, noise exposure map updates, and noise complaint updates on the agenda. Chittenden Solid Waste District met April 24th. At that time, we reviewed changes to the contamination policy for items dropped off at the Green Mountain Compost Facility. We also reviewed what the outreach and communication team has been up to. Includes website updates, as well as reviewing just a significant amount of in-person trainings, the Bringing Back Waste Warriors as well, which kind of took a pause during the pandemic, and so it's nice to see that coming back. And to highlight the significant amount of solar glasses that they recovered from the eclipse that will be counted and sorted for reuse, which I haven't heard a final number yet, but it looks it looks like they were being very busy collecting and counting all of those. Municipal infrastructure did not meet last month. It's TBD. It's to be determined if we're going to be meeting this month, depending on actionable agenda items. If we do end up holding a meeting, that will be May 17th.
All right. Well, big thanks to staff and community members for Green Up Day, all the work that goes into that, and to Bryn. A few updates from me. Our Planning Commission has scheduled a public hearing for their May 23rd meeting to look at updates they've been making, working through zoning in response to the state legislation, Homes Act 47 of last year. That act compels the town to make changes to allow for a greater housing density. And so that is what they have been working through. This will be the first public hearing. They could take additional action after that or advance it to council. The Planning and Housing Commissions are scheduled to get back together June 25th. They had been planning to reconvene this month in May, but the Housing Commission requested more time to work through potential inclusionary zoning and replacement language. And that's it for me. Thomas?
Thank you. So Safe, Healthy, Connected People meets next week, Tuesday the 14th at 5:30 p.m. Downtown Winooski did meet last week. There was no quorum, though, so some of the items were moved off of the agenda, but did discuss the downtown block parties, which is the Better Places grant. We did get to over the $15,000 goal, so thank you to everybody who donated to that campaign and made that possible. And some more downtown Winooski making the news. They also were awarded the Accredited Main Street America program. So essentially, from the really great work that Melissa has been telling us about, she's been able to turn the organization into one that was able to get this accreditation and some national recognition. So that was really impressive for our little downtown. And then Blingo tomorrow at Standing Stone Wines, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Hope to see you there.
Charlie?
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off of you a little bit, Christine. The Housing Commission met on May 28th and primarily discussed inclusionary zoning. Our next meeting will be later this month on Tuesday, May 28th, and it will be just the Housing Commission. The combined Planning Commission and Housing Commission meeting will be in late June.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on to city updates, Elaine?
Yep, so I'm sure it's a big shocker to everybody, but Main Street construction has started. Please remember to sign up for the construction updates that go out weekly. These include activities, active work zone limits, traffic impacts, traffic pattern changes, and parking restrictions for the upcoming week. To sign up for these updates and for full project details, please visit winooskivt.gov/Main Street, that's one word. If you have a property on Main Street, please be sure to go to that page and provide your contact information using the contact info form. This will allow more timely communication if there is something that will affect your property, like if the project needs to block your driveway in the next day or two. You can also, there's also a 24/7 hotline for anything that's emergent that is affecting you and you're not sure what's going on. So that 24/7 phone number is available at that site. Again, it's winooskivt.gov/Main Street. Also, as a reminder, all businesses are open during construction on Main Street. They are seeing a drop in revenue, so if you can, please do visit them and spend a little money. Operation May Day is May 11th, 2024. This is a Vermont statewide coordinated firefighter recruitment effort. If you're looking for a new challenge or want to support your neighbors and make the community a better place, please join us at the Winooski Fire Department at 120 Main Street this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You'll be able to get a firehouse tour, meet and greet our staff, check out the fire trucks and equipment, and learn more about career paths to your service as a firefighter. Job descriptions and employment applications will also be available for part-time and on-call firefighters. Note that also the full-time fire captain will also be posted here shortly. And definitely feel free to bring your young folks along. Never too early to start recruiting new firefighters.
All right, thank you, Elaine. Now we are moving into our regular items. So the first item on for discussion is a public hearing warrant for Unified Land Use and Development Regulation Amendments for our Gateway Zoning District. I will first invite Eric, our zoning administrator, to provide a brief summary, and then I'll open that public hearing.
Great, thank you very much. So included in your agenda packet was the report to you all on the proposed amendments that will primarily impact 32 Mallets Bay Avenue and 21 Hickok Street. These amendments are being proposed as both map amendments and text amendments. The map amendments specifically would rezone 21 Hickok Street from residential C to Gateway. They would also designate the structure, the O'Brien Community Center building, as a civic use building, which per the regulations provides some exemptions to the requirements of the form-based code. Currently, that building is non-conforming based on its size in particular and its location on the property, so the civic designation would bring it into conformity and allow for expansions of the building as well. The map amendments also relocate two neighborhood manners boundaries to go from the boundary between 32 Mallets Bay Avenue and 21 Hickok Street to the boundary between 21 Hickok Street and I believe it's 26 Hickok Street, the next property over on Hickok. For reference, the neighborhood manners boundaries are basically intended to be a buffer. No structures are permitted in that area, so it would provide some buffer between the properties. The text amendments specifically relate to the form-based code in Appendix B, specifically in Section 803. There's some clarification related to the civic use category and reorganization of some of the text. And then in in Part 9 in Section 901, it updates some of the definitions for civic use, for civic use building, and clarifies a couple of additional definitions as well. Otherwise, those are the only amendments that are proposed with this package tonight.
All right, thank you. And so a public hearing has been noticed for the consideration of these changes. I would like to now open the public hearing. This is an opportunity to invite anyone who has questions or comments about these proposed changes to come speak, by all means.
Hello again. My name is Felipe Hoyos. I am owner resident of 25 Hickok Street. Yeah, 25 Hickok Street. I wanted to come out and speak in support. I think it's great that the property is being handed over to the Champlain Housing Trust. I mean, not mentioned explicitly here, but that's what's going to happen. That end of the street definitely would benefit from some TLC and some more active management. I guess my reason for coming out here was to see if there were any specific plans already proposed for what Champlain Housing Trust intends to do. I believe it's a library expansion. I was curious if there are more specific plans beyond just those words, if there's a timeline available for when construction is expected to start. I live next to the property. I mean, it'd be great if construction would happen swiftly and there's just not cranes there for a long time. And then specifically, looking at the neighborhood manners lines in the back of 25 Hickok Street, on the backside, neighborhood manor setback, I believe, is 50 feet. And then on the sides abutting 21 Hickok Street, they would become just 20 feet. And I'm wondering, first of all, why that discrepancy between 50 and 20 feet exists at all. And then how, like, if it would be possible to extend the neighborhood manor setback anywhere to 30 to 50 feet in the immediate vicinity of 21 Hickok Street and 25 Hickok Street boundary line. So I'm saying from the sidewalk, extending back 50 feet, modify that neighborhood manners from its current 20 foot to 30 to anywhere from 30 to 50 feet. Going from residential C to gateway district, that's a big jump. Not opposed, but an extra buffer might be nice. And seeing as it is 50 feet in the back, I guess I'm just curious about that delineation. Other than that, no, all positive. I think it's great.
Thank you. Let me first see if there's any other additional comment, and then we'll move to
Address those points. Okay.
Yeah. Was anyone else here interested in comment or question on this item? Anyone on Zoom have public comment about this item? And if you are dialed in by phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. Okay, seeing no additional comment. Ray, do you have anything to share on construction timeline or specifics? I don't believe we're that far along.
Yeah, I mean, I think good questions, and certainly can give some high-level updates. We are working right now with the architect and CHT to schedule a series of community engagement opportunities, ideally starting towards the end of May. So we're working towards some May and June and potentially early July opportunities for community engagement. So I think there'll be more, sort of images and layouts and whatnot for community members to look at and weigh in on soon. There was, and I'm not going to remember the date right off the top of my head, but we did have CHT in a while back for a city council meeting where we did share some preliminary designs. I'm happy if, I know I'm not in the room, but if you can leave your email, I'm happy to get that date and send that over to you so you could reference that. And construction-wise, we are currently holding March of 2025 as the commencement of construction for the project. That's still, a little bit of a moving target as we're getting some financing and whatnot together with CHT, but that's the hopeful plan there. And certainly, hear you on the timeline, and we're going to do what we can to keep that as quick as we can. We're going to be out of a library for a little bit too, so we're going to be anxious to get the project wrapped up as well, or at least that portion of the project wrapped up. So I think we'll be moving as quickly as we can to rebuild that. So hopefully that answers some of the questions. And again, if you're able to leave your email with one of the other city staff, I can get you some info on the council meeting where that was discussed.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, Ray. I also forgot to formally close the public hearing. Apologies for that. So we're actually on to item B, the discussion approval portion. And now, Eric, would you come back up to address the neighborhood manners questions?
Yes. Yes, so specifically in the Gateway Zoning District, there are two general neighborhood manners districts, setbacks, sorry. One is a 50-foot and one is a 20-foot. In this particular area, however, we have some additional neighborhood manners scaling. The existing conditions of the neighborhood manners boundaries between 32 Mallets Bay Avenue and both 25 and 21 Hickok Street are, I believe they're about 5 feet in those areas. And then as you look at the mapping, the western end of the 32 Mallets Bay Avenue against 16 Hickok Street is about a 10-foot neighborhood manners. Those were drawn in specifically, I think, based on the uses that were there at the time when the district was created. I don't know the specific reasoning why they went with a smaller boundary, other than potentially because there's no buildings permitted in that neighborhood manners boundary. If they were to make them any larger, they would be encroaching into the existing O'Brien Community Center building. So it would, in essence, they would create a regulation that wouldn't be permitted upon adoption. So we did not look at any expansions to the neighborhood manners boundaries as far as the depth of that boundary for any of these locations. I don't know what that would do to potential future development or redevelopment of the site. Obviously, again, without buildings being permitted in those areas, that will have some impact depending on what the expansion plans are, if there are plans to expand in the future. But the Planning Commission did not look at any changes to the neighborhood manners other than the location specifically.
Okay, so it's a general increase from existing conditions.
Correct.
Do council have any other questions about this item?
Let me just check. I was looking at some of the language again. So, section 804C, there's some language that says, that basically exempts any building or structure that's qualified as a civic use is not subject to Part 4, building form standards, or Part 6, architectural standards. So I was curious if there are any other standards the structures would be required to adhere to.
Yes, they will be. So in Part 6, there's multiple standards, one being the architectural standards, which I don't know off the top of my head what they are, but there's the architectural standards, there's the materials component as well of Part 6 under architectural, there's the mechanical signage, lighting, those all fall under Part 6. Those would still all apply. It's
Okay.
just the specific architectural standards. And in Part 4 for building form standards, really what that is going to apply to is the specific location on the property where the building is required to be on the required building line, parking behind the parking setback line. So some of those components get exempted as well. And just to clarify, this provision is already in place. Under 804C, it's really just a reorganization of the text, not a new standard for civic use buildings. So the Winooski School Complex, when that was redone, falls under this same designation, and that's why it was allowed to remain in its current location with parking where it's located. this would only apply to a building that is formally designated on the zoning map as a civic building. So just by having a civic use does not make it a civic building. It needs to be formally designated. And to get designated, it does require an amendment to the zoning map. So it would have to come before you all, the council, to make that formal amendment to a civic, to establish a civic use building.
And I have one more question. Page 76 or 5 of 7, the packet. Civic uses notes private schools, daycare, etc. I was curious if there was a need to articulate or add language to have these spaces be accredited or licensed.
So based on the definitions that we have for these uses, it does require state licensing
Okay.
and
so
accreditation.
that's-
So yeah,
Okay, all right.
yep.
Those were my 2 questions.
No one else have questions?
No.
All right, so this is warned for approval as a step in moving forward with our redevelopment of that space and transfer. Would someone like to make a motion to approve these amendments?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Item C, also on for discussion approval, a reserve request for the fire truck down payment. Angela is on Zoom, I think.
Yes, I am.
Oh, welcome.
So included in the FY25 capital plan was a down payment of $500,000 towards the fire truck purchase. We bid out this fire truck over a year ago now. It is in construction. The awarded bid was just under our $1.3 million authorized bond amount. However, given the funding that we have available, we have advocated to put some of the reserves towards this purchase to reduce our borrowing costs. The funding is currently invested at TD Bank and would remain invested to further drive down the amount of borrowing we would need to do when the truck will be ready in the spring of 2025.
Hopefully.
Oh, can we, Angela, I couldn't hear the last thing you said.
Sounded like it
Pretty good.
The truck is going to be ready in the spring of 2025, so we'll keep the funds invested as long as we're earning more than the 4% that the vendor has quoted us as simple interest that they would give us for prepayment.
So we have, since the bond discussion, previously discussed it with ARPA funding, but talked about trying to buy down the debt to save interest in the long run. Do you have an estimate of how much money we will save over the life of the bond by down?
Do not. I'm not sure where interest rates are going to go. I'm also not certain when we will be borrowing. The fire truck delivery date has been pushed out a number of times and interest rates are continuing to fluctuate.
And is the full debt service already baked into the capital plan?
No, John Rauscher has included a $500,000 down payment in the assumptions he's made in the capital plan.
Other questions?
The lag is
Oh.
confusing.
No, there's a lag in the video.
So in, just to make sure that it's covered verbally, not just in the cover sheet, the idea is that the interest earned on that 500,000 would also go towards the down payment. It would be allocated through an action, this action, it would be allocated for that interest.
Okay. It's worth noting, looking at our reserve sheet, we have potentially more pending potential. These haven't been decisions yet, but potential future assignments of reserve funding more than actual money available.
No.
Is that not what I'm seeing here?
We have $2 million of unassigned fund balances, and I have totaled 977,000 of other projects that are pending assignment. So we have $2 million. Yeah, there are some things that we're still pending information on for pricing, but I don't believe that it will total another $1 million.
Okay, what's the 668,000 total then?
So those are funds that are not invested. That is free floating cash, but some of the funds that are invested are available for assignment, and we just would not reinvest them when we needed to spend them.
Okay. Any questions from members of the public? Anyone on Zoom? Reminder, you can use the raise hand feature. Okay. Not hearing any concerns about the staff recommendation, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Bryn, second by Charlie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to item D, the exciting topic for tonight, the Lafountain and Dion Street Scoping Study Recommendations presentation. This is on for discussion as an introduction to council and the public.
I'm also inviting Jason Trist up here from CCRPC.
Welcome, Jason.
Thanks for having me. And there should be, Kevin should be online from WSP, and perhaps Annabelle.
He's
Kevin McCarthy?
in attendees, yeah,
Yep.
as well as Annabelle.
And Annabelle Melling.
They're on their way over now.
Okay.
So I can do a quick intro. So the city submitted for this grant back in January 2022 as part of the Chittenden County Planning UPWP, and that stands for Unified Planning Work Program. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's an annual grant that they that we utilize quite often for transportation-related projects, where if it's a local project, it's 80% funded through the RPC program, and then we pay a local match of 20%. So typically, we do things like these scoping studies for to look at how corridors should maybe be revised if we have some utility work that we're proposing. So in this case, the Lafountain Dion Street scoping study, we have a city water main distribution master plan that was performed back in 2016. There are 3 high priority corridors that are listed as recommended for water main replacement at that time within the next 5 to 10 years. So we're getting close to that 2026 threshold. So Lafountain Street was the top one, given the age and number of breaks and the hydraulic issues that we have on that corridor. Mallett's Bay was number 2, and Hickok Street was number 3. So those are the 5 to 10 year range streets, and then the rest were, in the 10 to 20 range. We need to address them. So Hickok Street we've completed. Mallett's Bay needs, we are looking to do a scoping study on that street at some point. So Lafountain Street seems like the appropriate candidate, given that it was number 1 on the priority list. It's probably due for resurfacing in the not too distant future. So we wanted to do this public outreach piece so that when we get to the point where we're programming a project, we've sort of done this portion of it. So, I mean, as you noticed, we started in 2022, we're 2024. So we want to get this sort of on the shelf so that when we do fund it and we have it in a capital plan, we've done this upfront work, and we're not trying to do this when we're trying to look at potentially the construction side. And I will say right now, we don't have a schedule for doing any construction work or water main work, as you've seen our capital plan. So this is just something we want to have on the books for now until we figure out how to fund it and get through, some of our other big projects we're working on. So with that, that's sort of the setup. I'm not sure if Kevin and Annabelle are there, but I do want to hear. Jason Trust. Jason is the project manager on the CCRPC side. We've got Kevin McCarthy from WSP, the transportational engineers that worked on this, and Annabelle, who did a lot of the outreach portion. I do want to also call out the Municipal Infrastructure Commission acted as the advisory committee for this scoping study. So they were sort of the steering committee behind this effort with the public outreach. So with that, I'll pass along to Jason, Kevin.
I don't think I have more to add. If I talked for a little bit, I'd probably just be stealing Kevin's thunder. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Jason. I think I need permission to share my screen for the slides. Got you covered, Kevin. Hang on.
While that gets situated, I'll just fill some space here, let you know that this is the third public meeting for this process, and we have actual recommended alternatives for you all tonight to consider. This is a result of those 2 public meetings and 4 advisory committee meetings. That's 4 meetings with the Municipal Infrastructure Commission. And it looks like Kevin is good to go.
Okay. Thank you. Let me make sure I can flip. There we go. As Jason mentioned, the project team consists of Jason from the CCRPC. My name is Kevin McCarthy from WSD, and I'm a senior transportation engineer. And for public outreach, we have also online Annabelle Deli. The agenda for tonight, we're going to briefly recap the study thus far, and the meetings we've had so far, the existing conditions on the corridor, the purpose and need of the project, and then the main idea of this presentation is to introduce you to the long-term and short-term preferred alternatives that we developed as a result of this project process in conjunction with the advisory committee. The long-term alternative is intended to correspond to the utility project that John mentioned in the next 5 to 10 years, and the short-term preferred alternative is intended to be implemented in the next few years. And as I'll discuss, it will be similar to the long-term preferred alternative as much as possible. And then, so far, as Jason mentioned, we had this is our third meeting with the public. The first one was a local concern meeting about almost exactly a year ago, where we met with the public. We presented the corridor, we split groups, and I think about 30 people attended somewhere around there, so we had a pretty good turnout, and they told us what their concerns were on the corridor and what they'd like to see in the future. And we also presented draft alternatives back in November. And as Jason mentioned, the advisory committee for this process was the Winooski Infrastructure Committee, and we met with them 4 times to establish the purpose and need to develop the alternatives, and then ultimately, a couple of months ago, they voted and determined the long-term preferred alternatives that they recommended. Just to, so we're all on the same page, the study area for this you're looking at was the Lafountain Street corridor, extending from the intersection of Main and Lafountain over east of Dion and then down to East Allen Street. In total, about 0.6 miles. There are currently gaps in the sidewalk in several locations along this corridor. The parking is revised. It's quite wide, at 32 feet per curb on Lafountain and 28 on Dion. And yeah, there are several all control intersections, and the ADT is approximately 2,000 vehicles per day.
ADT is average age.
Sorry, average age traffic. And that's to put it in context. It's fairly low. It's in the context of overall, it's considered somewhat low traffic, I would say. It's not like it does connect the Main Street corridor and East Allen Street and the I-9, so it's not empty, but. So this slide is a summary of the local concerns meeting, essentially. I think these are the main ideas that we came away with, and many residents currently walking on the corridor and express a desire for enhanced ped facilities. Many comments received had to do with speed on the corridor and traffic and people riding too fast. Many people noted that the compliance with 4-way stop signs along the town was very low, and they reported some near misses. They noted that low parking utilization on Lafountain Street, except for the first spot between Main Street and Third Street, with the parking not utilized, that ends up giving the more vehicle traffic a lot of room, which tends to increase speeds. So that's something that we looked at. And other concerns, others noted preference to preserve front lawns to the extent possible. Currently, the right-of-way width on Lafountain and Dion Street extends quite a bit beyond the curb line. It's about, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's wider than the back of the sidewalk in most locations. So the comment was that to preserve the perceived front lawns as much as possible. In conjunction with the advisory committee, we developed the purpose and need, and that is what we use to guide our alternative selection and basically steer the project. The purpose of the Lafountain Street scoping study is to evaluate improvements to the Lafountain Street and Street corridor that promote safety and mobility for all users and enhance the characteristics of neighborhood streets. The needs include improved safety and mobility for the vulnerable users, contrast and streets, and enhance street safety and aesthetics. So taking all that into consideration, the purpose and need, local concerns, we developed short and long-term preferred alternatives. We developed draft alternatives. Draft long-term and short-term alternatives that we presented back in November. The reason that we have the alternatives I wrote here, the long-term alternatives on top, was during the draft alternative presentation to the public, it was suggested that the long-term alternative should guide the short-term alternative in that sort of a pilot study, and I think there was general agreement with that. So while keeping alternatives 1 and 2 because we have several documents that name them alternatives 1 and 2, we might focus on the long-term first, so that we long-term vision of the corridor, and then short-term kind of try to create as much as possible. So you see 2 alternatives based on the comments received. We developed alternatives B and C as modifications, and then ultimately the argument rejected those modifications. So, and then the short-term alternatives 1 and 2, and then I'll talk about this in the next slide. Ultimately, the argument recommended alternatives for some modifications and the short-term alternatives on long-term design. So since it's rejected, as the alternative, I'll be brief. The alternative included 13 foot lane each direction, reconstruct the sidewalk on the north side, as 6 foot sidewalk on the south side, the street trees, the Street, no sideline. The intersection to be included pedestrian refuge islands, and as traffic calming, we consider chicanes. And chicanes are a traffic calming device that forces drivers to have forces sort of an S curve in the roadway to divert drivers horizontally around them. So they obviously have signs delineating them, so like reflect signage, but helps slow traffic down. Yeah, that's essentially on Dion Street, similar proposal. And then moving on to alternative first, which is selected. This includes street tree level side of the roadway, 6 foot sidewalks on each side, 10 foot shared lanes in each direction on Lafountain Street,
a road diet with narrow lanes, sidewalks, shared bikes. The intersections have reduced radii to slow traffic down around corners and enhance visibility for pedestrians. And we also, the alternative also proposes mean roundabouts at the existing stop and control intersections. And those generally received a favorable response at the public presentation. In the long term, there's a number of ways you can implement it, but it could be a physical island, it could be just pavement that's painted and kind of rounded to extend out. But it's intended to be mountable so that trucks such as fire trucks and school buses could in order to make the turns. And then, so when we presented these to the public, the main comments that we got were positive feedback regarding the street trees and mini roundabouts. People didn't like things projects on the roadway, but they perceived that they make it where it would make it difficult to maneuver their vehicles like fenders and medians. There's a comment about retaining some parking between the Clare Street and Dion. Actually, I don't think I mentioned that. Initially, in alternatives 3 and 4, we proposed maintaining parking between Main Street and Clare Street and eliminating parking east of Clare Street based on the parking utilization data that the CCRPC collected, showing that there's some significant utilization on that first block near Main Street and very low, only 1 or 2 cars a day east of Clare Street. So initially, that's what we proposed, and the comment was looking into more. And then we also looked into the feasibility of including a shared use path on one side of the Lafountain Street. The shared use path is similar to bike lane, but Town Street is parallel to the roadway. It's intended for bikes and pedestrians to use together. Ultimately, the advisory committee rejected this proposal because it eliminated street trees on the Lafountain Street. So there was a preference to maintain a street tree on either side of the roadway over a shared use path. And then the long-term recommendation from the advisory committee, again, is alternative 4. In addition, with the modification of the parking to eliminate the parking between Main and Clare Street. The reason the advisory committee is recommending removing the parking on that first block is to maintain a consistent corridor from end to end. So as the potentially recommended at Town Street, alternative 4 with the modification no parking through the whole corridor. The traffic timing includes the narrow street with mini roundabouts at the stop control intersection and removal of the center line. The center line removal recommendation is intended to enhance the neighborhood street characteristics and psychologically remind people that they are on a neighborhood street and not on a busy thoroughfare. And this is the balance order of street trees, bike sharing road with calm, slower traffic, safer sidewalks, and enough room for storage on the landscape strip on either side of the roadway. On Dion Street, the recommendation is similar. Alternative 4 with the sidewalk on the west side of the roadway, and narrow lanes and instruction, where currently there are 14 feet in instruction. Bike share road here as well, and a 6 sidewalk on the west side.
Hey, Kevin, maybe before we jump into the short term, maybe we can just open it up to council questions on the long term.
Sure.
I think the first, maybe less a question, but something that really came to mind with the potential of eliminating parking. I think I have 2 thoughts on this. There's the potential of eliminating parking when we're looking at increasing parking incentives for building units, and that just seems kind of counterintuitive. And then if we are removing parking, why aren't we creating a bike lane, like a separated bike lane? Because that would then still reduce the street, and then you would safely have. It even looks like that is in the short-term alternatives. So I'm just wondering about the logic there.
I can speak to the latter half of that. You'd have to bring me up to speed on the parking and the development piece that you mentioned at the start of it. But for the latter half of it, I think the question was why we're retaining bike lanes in long term. And it is something that we are going to be talking about in short term. It was the preference of the public, or at least the majority of comments we heard in the advisory committee. The street trees were more important. And that if we can make this a narrow street, it's 20-foot curve, it is going to be a much different landscape when you're driving down the street. You're just going to feel like you can't drive fast on it. So with the being that it would be slow enough for most bicyclists who are comfortable riding on the road. And then, of course, the younger generation has the learning to still use the sidewalk.
Okay. Trying to think about how that were. The other thing I'm wondering is if you could go into any more detail on those preferences for mini roundabouts and kind of how those will work in the setting. I'm just very aware that we get honestly a lot of complaints about our giant circulators, so some concern over folks being annoyed or confused or worried about these smaller roundabouts.
Yeah, I'm not going to kid you. There will be a learning curve. It is a newer device to the area. Of course, much different in size compared to your circle, your left circle. Fully, as Kevin mentioned, fully mountable, so that really only like maybe 3 inches off the top of the pavement, something that a long trailer or a bus could drive right over. It is something that can be piloted. There are available materials out there to test something like this. But yeah, it would be like around about this. It would be yield controlled on entry. The drivers would drive in a counterclockwise direction around the circle.
Thank you. That's good to know there's that piloting option. Let's see how that, if it meets the needs of slowing folks down. Those are the 2 I have right now.
Just do my best. I think we can proceed with the next piece. See if we have additional questions, and we'll open it up to the public.
Sure. Okay. So next is the short-term alternatives, and I'm going to briefly go over alternative 1 and 2 that we considered initially and presented at the draft alternatives, but basically retooled after that presentation and developed a short-term preferred alternative that mimics the preferred long-term alternative. So the first short-term alternative, alternative 1, was essentially a bike lane, as we've already mentioned, a 5.5-foot bike lane in each direction with 2 10-foot lanes, no center line, and given Dion Street is not wide enough to accommodate a minimum 5-foot bike lane, we struggled a little bit to come up with something, but ultimately we went with red painted shoulders, like a brick color, to narrow the width and calm traffic in the short term. And then for alternative 2 is similar, no bike lanes with islands at the intersections. And in alternative 2, we also considered traffic calming devices similar to the chicanes in alternative 3. And the reason for this was this variation was if ultimately we're not continuing with bike lanes in the long-term alternatives, we wanted a short-term alternative with bike lanes and without. And then the feedback we received, as mentioned, there's a lot of positive feedback for using the short term as a pilot for the preferred long-term alternative. Generally, there was some negative feedback regarding the use of paint, and that came from the public and from the advisory committee, concerns about it wearing away and being ignored by divers. And then, again, similar to alternative 3, negative feedback regarding projects in the roadway, such as planters. And then also, this wasn't a focus of our study because we don't have to go too far into it, but there was general support for the use of speed bumps in both alternatives. And essentially, for our short-term recommendation is to use some quick build materials that can inexpensively and temporarily be implemented to try to mimic the long-term alternatives to the extent possible. These include delineators such as armadillos and flux posts, which are shown on the slide. The flux posts, I'm sure most people have seen before. They're about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, and they delineate roadway space, and they're attached to the pavement. These would be enhanced with paint for emphasis, and the reclaimed space could be used for interim bike and pivot accommodations. This is basically the recommended short-term alternative. We recommend removing the yellow center line, similar to all the alternatives, narrow travel lanes to 10 feet in each direction, and no parking throughout the corridor. We're recommending flux posts at the departure and approach to each intersection to help delineate the shoulder as no parking. If it was just paint and no flux posts were used, it would be fears that it would be likely ignored. And as Jason mentioned, we're also proposing like a pilot of the main roundabout as well, and that could be in the similar materials to the flux posts. That could be mounted to the roadway, or it could be as simple as paved asphalt in a raised manner that could still be mountable by vehicles. And Jason has mentioned that this could be done by the Public Works, has the capability of implementing something like that. So yes, it's feasible, but it tends to mimic the narrow roadway to the extent possible. In the meantime, bicyclists can use the shoulder, pedestrians could use it where there's no sidewalk adjacent to it. The 10-foot lanes in each direction, up to 20 feet per curb, is fairly narrow, so this will allow the town to see what it's like and make sure that it works for the city. And here are just some illustrations of the quick build implementation. This is the main roundabout is in this case a mountable rubber roundabout. This is from the Burlington quick build materials guide, and there's more information in there about these quick build materials. On the right is an example of flux posts narrowing the roadway width, so somewhat similar to what we're proposing. This slide is just intended to illustrate the ways in which our alternatives meet the purpose needs developed that I discussed earlier. The short-term alternative improves safety by implementing shoulder flux posts for buffer for peds and bikes. It calms traffic by reducing lane width and with the temporary main roundabouts. For the long-term alternatives, the widen sidewalks and reduce corner radii improve safety and mobility. For traffic speeds, to reduce roadway width is intended to reduce travel speed. The main roundabouts are intended to interrupt the long straight corridor with a physical representation visual that you can't just go straight all the way down Lafountain Street. And the streetscape aesthetics, I think, will be greatly improved by the addition of trees on both sides of the roadway. And the last slide is basically a concept level estimate of the preferred short and long-term alternatives. We developed using a concept level estimate tool, and we approximately $225,000 for the short-term alternative, excluding mill and overlay, and $7.5 million, $7.4 million for the long-term alternative. And these again are just estimates on a planning level. And the long-term alternative includes is assumed to be 10 years, so 2034. And that wraps up what we are presenting today. And this slide has our contact information. I'll turn it back to Jason and John, or questions.
Other questions before we move to the public?
Sure, just a quick one. Is it possible to get the estimates for the other options that are presented?
It's possible. It's not something we have had put forward at this point, though.
You didn't estimate them all?
No, no. Not typically, mostly due to budget constraints. It's a decent amount of work to go through the exercise.
I think it could be highly helpful. This kind of last thing about budgets and what we want to do with now and which other options may cause.
Are the other options that could be more?
Kevin, did you-
I would say for the long term, it would be similar because most of the cost is because the utility project is assumed as a given. So most of the cost is for the full-depth reconstruction of the reconstruction of the roadway and reconstruction of the sidewalks. So I wouldn't expect it to be significantly different. It's just a reallocation of what's a slightly wide roadway that's a narrower sidewalk. So I don't think it would be significantly different.
I have a lot of thoughts. I want to hold those until I hear from the residents of Comstock Town. So I'd like to open it up to anyone who has a question or comment. If you please use the microphone so that everyone's can hear.
I'll get us off. Hi, Ashley Lockton, live on Fountain Street. So first, I appreciate the work that the municipal infrastructure committee did as advisory. I know that a lot of time and thought goes into it, and not make everybody happy. So just want to say, sure, thank you. Second of all, now I don't park on the street, but I certainly have concerns about eliminating parking the entire way. is there a situation, and I understand we want to keep this side consistent all the way down, because the first one study, it was like, we're parking this side, and then this side, and then this side, and there's sidewalk here, and not here, it's all over the place. So I appreciate the effort to make it consistent all the way down. Was there consideration to providing parking on the north or south side, and on the opposite side, providing the trees and the increased sidewalk? So for example, you still look all the way down, you have sidewalk and trees down one way, and you have parking all the way down the other. I feel like there's going to be a rebellion if there is not parking provided on much of the road. Now, I will say that parking from Main Street to Leclerc Street, the desire or need for it has gone down since the initial investigation study was done, but that's not to say people still don't park there. Councilor Moore, I do like your point of like, okay, well, at first there was this increased requirement for parking on site for development, but now that it's going to be reduced, so people are then going to be going to the street. And so I think that's my biggest concern is the complete elimination of parking. On the short term, again, I appreciate the work that was put into this, but those flags are hideous, like hideous. And I'm not going to play them for a short term. You don't, they're the posts, yes, the posts with the bears, UGLI. And they're just going to be a target for kids to knock down. They're going to be a target for, like, it's just exasperating to have, and then putting the bullet, listen to me, the bolts into the ground, into the pavement is going to induce freeze thaw with water infiltration. And so that's going to then continue, like, more aggressively erode the pavement that's already there. I'm fine with the roundabout. I kind of like them. I kind of like just like a little bit of a raised surface there. So I don't really look at those posts. They're just going to be a waste. And frankly, that doesn't do a neighborhood setting. It screams city. And I know we're city, but we want this to be a neighborhood feel. And painting road and putting those posts are just, please don't. Next.
Anyone else that come up and share your reactions, ask your questions?
My name is Michael Lapierre. I live on the first block on Lafountain Street, on the south side of the house from Leclerc. And like when talking, eliminating all parking there, I think would be a nightmare for anyone like me who has a tent and a duplex. But besides that, I think that a lot of people are here that park and use Lafountain as a parking place would be irate if they heard that they're going to eliminate all parking. My second thing is, I'm just concerned that all this stuff is not going to slow down speeders, because I witnessed, actually, if I slow them down, so they don't run at the stop sign at Leclerc and Lafountain as easily, but I've seen people barrel around the corner from Main and come down the street 40, 50 miles an hour and not stop for the stop sign. And I've seen, at the distance 80, I've seen someone hit the brick house across the street, and I saw another accident involving 2 cars that slid up against up near a house, adjacent from my house. So my concern is, you're going to take away the width, but when those people hit speed, see no one down the other end of the street, and they've got no lane, and they've got a wide road to go down, they're going to speed. I mean, people are still going to speed, they're going to see from one block to another, just like they do now. I mean, people stop, still speed, 40, 50 miles an hour from one block to another, and I run on the Lafountain Street like 2 days a week, so I'm tired. So I see a lot of traffic, so I'm outside a lot, I see a lot of it. I certainly hear a lot of people speed by, but I've seen a couple people just whip down that street like there's no more. And I'm worried about the kids, and they get killed, so that's better.
Hi, I'm Molly. I live on the south street. I place part of the trees on my side. I'm talking about street parking or about like both sides. I just want to mention that the post I don't think that they all take time to build. And I'm Main Street from relatively busy. And in the winter time, there's a lot of snow that gets pretty so you have to eliminate. Some of the things are trying to deal with it. I know it's kind of a hassle for me when they don't time. But I like the idea of having like temporary additions that you see like in the road.
Hi, thanks so much for the opportunity to share. My name's Gwen Hart. I live on Rochester, so the block closer to Dion. And there are a couple things that I could just use some clarification around. One, that estimate does not include the water, I mentioned. So that's helpful to know. And when I think about the investment that goes into making our Winooski that much more beloved to the people here, I feel like this is not addressing what feels like an emergent issue, which is the intersection of Dion and East Allen. I understand that's outside, literally so of the work, but that if we're narrowing Dion, I don't think we're addressing the reality of what happens when you leave Dion and enter the world. And it's possible to be stuck there for like 15 minutes. Someone's a little cautious about being on left, right? There's accidents all the time. You miss this with the left out of people. So I know I'm bringing in outside issues, but it feels like it's an extremely relevant part of the conversation I'm not seeing reflected. One final just question is, with the temporary roundabout to be melted by anything, I anticipate that everyone will melt it, right? So like maybe we'll make something else. I don't know, I'm not tracking it here, but I just think about if it's a bus to it, so I'm going to go it. So yeah, because I know it's not working. You need a line so thanks for your service.
Yeah,
she's saying about it's only a matter of time sometimes the intersection she's talking about. I think it's just like rushing to let people out there. It's going to happen. So I think you have to think that you should avoid that because you don't hear it in the news. But I really think that that's just rushing to let that intersection. And that's one thing. Another thing I want to make a comment on. I've been on bike-friendly streets. I'm thinking about this one called Fremont Avenue in Seattle, where they actually have parking in the streets. The cars and the bikes share the cars, and they have the medians, and the neighborhood takes care of the median. Sometimes they'll plant trees in the woods, sometimes they'll have a nice garden. Some neighborhoods still do anything with it, just a rabbit thing. But it does work and it works. I've seen it work at bike parking, and I thought, wow, we should do this next week. So it can make work, and you have places where they'll start to try to parking inside sometimes. But it's like a mix of different kinds of parking that they'll use. And the bikes they just sort of avoid these things that I do, avoid the doors and stuff. We know to be aware of these things. And I advocate for speed humps, definitely testing these people from doing over 3 miles an hour. I think that for a few of their bottom outside, they will stop doing that in the street. So, and that's why for me. One thing I question about that involves paving. I think that's $4 million that is a part of it, where they start to redo the entire road and curves and paving and all that stuff. Is there some concern? Right. For long term, that includes full reconstruction of the sidewalks, curves, everything. And sidewalks, okay. And that's where I'll get. Okay. No more questions. Thank you. 9 Street, sorry, 85. Richard.
I've led that corner of Manchester Street, Lafountain Street, the last 4 years, and I've got a couple questions. One is, has it been taken into consideration about the tearing down of the armory? How's that going to affect this project, or vice versa? Nobody seems to know. We know it's getting torn down, but we don't know if you're going to take it from a dog park to condos. So I'm curious about that. And the other thing, the slope being down on that corner, people speeding from Dion Street to Hood Street, 50 to 60 miles an hour. That needs to be addressed right off with a 4-way stop right there. So it goes from Dion Street to Hood and Lafountain. There's no stop sign at Winooski Street. It's a 2-way stop right now. That should be a 4-way stop.
To your question about the armory, I don't think it matters. Like, the line of the property wouldn't change. Whatever we do here would be in the right way anyway, so it doesn't usually.
And more than likely, it will be egress out of that project, no matter what it is. So, yeah. Okay, so,
Thank you.
And all these things come up. A lot of these things that people are testing out, saying has been addressed. And exactly what I see here is about everybody's input into it is what I see, but what I've heard from people is not the majority, but people in the comments, what we not want to see. I think that people have done work, have in there, as far as mitigating things, they have experience, they know, looking about how to do these things. People say, these are, well, people have built in a really mature work, so I have to, the experts that say, that they work, or something. And, like I said, I think so, I'm pretty willing to get done, to do this, and I think somebody else is doing something, and they're doing it, and people will stop saying, a lot of these things are doing, so, I just think that, personally, I'm putting my data here, every meeting, and I think that I really, coming in from one whole thing, personally, like I said, I really want to go, and hold here, and I'd like to get it. Thank you.
Ian Metcalf, just out of curiosity, the new roundabouts, would that include removing the stop signs? Yes. And, like I said, thank you. That part of the short-term development? Thank you.
Hi, Tristan Knight, I live on Lafountain Street. Most of us on the south side of Lafountain have a small one-car driveway. Now, when my family comes to visit, I count on street parking. When my neighbors across the street have children come to visit, they use the parking in front of my house. I live 2 houses away from the court, and the court is small and narrow. Most of the people, when they have money, they park in front of my house or along Fountain Street. So I'd like to know where the hell my family is going to park when they want to come to visit. Not only that, if we're narrowing the street, we have delivery trucks, mailmen. I'm also planning on starting to remodel my house. Where the heck are we going to put the workers and the materials that are going to be delivered, the trucks and the workers, where are they going to park? I don't understand this plan. I don't like this plan. Thank you for listening.
Are there folks attending via Zoom who want to make comment or ask questions? Please use the raising feature and you'll be brought over to speak.
Hi.
Can you name yourself first, please? Can you hear me? Yes, can you please say your name before you proceed?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Kristen Lawson. I'm a news resident, and I just wanted to say thank you so much to the project team. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and I do think that both the preferred alternative for the short term and the long term are really great plans. I think they're going to make these corridors wonderful places to walk and bike and really pleasant areas in the city. So I'd like to just say that I support the short term alternative and the long term alternative as well that were reviewed by Kevin earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You must attend via Zoom. Wish you speak.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
Hi, this is Rebecca. I live on Clare Street, just one house in from Lafountain. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone in the room, all the neighbors. I see several lives near me, and just really appreciate that I seeing so many folks walk away on this, and it takes a lot of time. I know everyone's personal schedules, but I just really appreciate those who have followed this project all along and the work of the project managers at the council. Thank you so much for taking such good care to make sure that as we invest more in Winooski, that we're being inclusive and we're making smart investments for the long term that help keep our city and our residents healthy. I just really appreciate it. I wanted to thank all of you there. I'm sorry that I can't be there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Let's bring us back to council discussion. So this item is on for discussion only, so we can provide input for its times. So we'll come back to this future meeting for approval. Potential revisions to next discussion. I gotta find the. So this cost proposal for the short-term alternative, $225,000 is essentially for the flex posts and some painting. Please tell me what is included in the short-term.
It includes the flex post, the removal of the center line, the painting of the shoulder, and the main roundabout implementation, which is probably the highest price item there.
Okay, thank you. And the long-term alternative is $7.4 million for essentially the entire streetscape, and then if John, you have a rough idea of the actual lower cost?
Yes, so we, 2018, we did the Hickox Street reconstruction project, which is pretty similar to what you're looking at. This project was about 27 million feet like that we replaced. Hickox Street, the water replacement project was around 1.1 million total with engineering. For this project, with an increase to, I'd say to 2024, we to be about, I'd say for a water replacement project. It's about 28,900 linear feet of water replacement.
Okay. Let's start the long-term one and have some discussion about any feedback we want to provide, since that was sort of driving short-term. So we are looking at, can we go back to the slide with the recommended long-term, please?
Yes. Would you like the plan view or session?
I'll just see the overhead view, please. Okay. So this is essentially road light, trees, motor sidewalks, and apartments. I agree with many comments in the room. I am 100% opposed to full rural parking for reasons shared by residents here, but also we are currently in the process of reducing parking minimums because they're required to law. We're reducing parking all along our Main Street corridor. I do not think it's a good idea to take parking off the street. We're trying to use that as incentive support for housing ownership, but I can't support that. I think it was shared earlier, the idea of having trees and motor sidewalk on one side and taking parking on the other, that is potentially viable. I also see how others feel about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, people park on the street, it's necessary that people live there, visit there, and if you want the spillover to happen on our streets, it's going to be necessary. So, yeah, I like planting trees to any street, so I would be able to do it alongside, and have kind of one side parking.
I would also agree with that. Yeah, it seems thinking about rotating work is looking towards the future, and if we have additional development, we have these other projects and compliance with state legislation that we need to do. It just doesn't make sense to me to completely remove that parking. I also would be fine with exploring the idea of having maybe one side, I'll choose the other side parking. I think there might be some debate on what that looks like, but I would agree that I'm trying to place completely remote parking here.
Just to echo, I'd be sacrificing function for uniformity and I'd be all one way down both sides. Makes no sense. I don't see why we can't have some trees and some parking. Or no trees, because trees are, they require maintenance. It's not going to say to keep trees trimmed and in shape, and you have to infrastructure costs for roots over here. So I think I love trees, and I also think that it's a keep cost for us too.
As usual, I participated in all these meetings, including one from last May. I've had very active discussions during the advisory committee meetings. Obviously, parking is, and I've heard there before that parking is not public, is not right to public space, and so I certainly hear that we are trying to offer parking incentives for housing in a realm where we don't have any other options. So I understand that is a hot button and a pressure point, and I think that I lived in Seattle, so I'm thinking about getting Seattle for cycling on streets, and I've lived in neighborhoods where the main roundabouts are standard with roundabout signs, and people hate those people. So yes, Vermont is not, Beach City, Vermont is not Seattle, and I do think people will be able to use it. I do think it can help with moving that straight shot down the road
just seeing and experiencing it from living in a space without anymore. There was a question earlier about expanding, basically county shared use path. I think the comment from one of the first speakers, that was something that the advisory committee did consider, and there were concerns similar to the bridge, comments that, folks that both hearing for of concern to have additional cyclists in the same Milwaukee space, and concerns about being able to hear and passing safely there. So yes, it definitely was talked about the challenges of removing parking and the challenges of having the removing that as we look at housing incentives and changes. So it's not as though it was completely beyond the conversation of the advisory committee. And given those factors, there's still priority given to walkable components and to the reducing the heat island effect with street trees. So I agree with what the advisory committee proposes, and I feel like it's in her discussion. So that's where I stand.
Do you have any other changes that they would propose on this long-term?
I want to hear more specifically about the budget because going to the meetings on the bridge, cars and bike sharing is also a large concern. So I'm bringing some of that thought into just not having like separated, having some kind of separation between the cars and bike path, and then also connecting that back with parking minimums. If you're trying to decrease parking overall, you want to increase bike use and other uses. So removing those. So yeah, how do you balance those two things? And I know this is not something in the near term, but maybe a whole expanding bus routes. I also worry about that. Or this is going to block us in ever thinking about having bus stops on the street. So those are the first two other things that I'd like to hear more on.
So I can speak to that last point. So one is school shop is traveling on currently is out at phases this point, for the park and for down. So even with the proposed narrowing scenario shown, that would necessarily impact for bus routes. And as far as the sort of dedicated bike lane, I was sort of dedicated item, and that's sort of just 42 feet. You got to place more in. How do you put that together? What is the street place? So talking about the dedicated bike lane, the discussion on Lafountain Street was that this is a pretty low stress street for biking for the most part. Most people will take Lafountain Street versus Spring Street to me, the street you would put a dedicated bike on. That's a really challenging stressful street usually I see traffic. But Lafountain Street, based on commission, but so that's a motion that this would probably be a show street versus taking out that 5 foot very considerable space in which here for the landscaping or large sidewalk.
Thank you.
Just, I don't know if it's David, Kevin's up the alternative 40. This is something that the advisory committee kicked around as like the whole board, but on certain blocks. Is there a block or two where we would want to not have street trees and use that space for parking? We collected parking data on the border, and it's available on the website. I encourage everyone to look at it. From that day, we're really working to pinpoint one block in particular that is so little utilization of parking to begin with. Then it became a huge challenge for us if we were to something like 140 for a block or two here and there. Where actually fit and who want parking for their house versus use that streets. And so something to really make a decision on based on the data.
Well, obviously parking is not legal currently. Parking is not legal, but we're talking about a technical which to be honest, I don't think we want this year's. The area is only going to get over time. So I don't think it should be taken out people now. We won't use any incentives here from the section information. What I'm saying here is that it's not possible to retain parking and add street trees.
Correct. It depends on encroach further towards people's homes. We try to do 42 feet. The right way is a little bit larger, but we're trying to keep it in the right way so we can see something here in construction.
I don't understand the conditions of how much sidewalk needed traveling and parking there is. Like, what is that? Is the piece on the right the current condition? Was that correct?
No, it's a little bit narrower. There's 5 lines you see that are that's existing right on any side. So that's why the street is. Some people don't park there on the street. That's why they encourage some street.
Yeah, existing, so right now it's 5 foot sidewalk. It's on both sides still at pretty much street height. The current radius sidewalks are something else. All the stuff that we need to place the right way and push it back and forth. That's one of their operational challenges we have right now is just something that's emerging. And then the roadway, they're probably under 12 feet currently, fairly wide, and the parking sort of it goes back to one corridor. 18 with 8 foot width, and same on the other side, no about sidewalk rates.
So if you make those sidewalks each 5 feet instead of 6 feet, you can add that to the section of the street. They make those 5 feet instead of 6 feet, because you have 2 feet, which is why it was on the left side, you need 5 feet for the trees. So I think it's 5 feet, the right side, you parking lot.
I would support that, to get trees and parking. I also agree with this. I'm not doing downtown this spring to realize all distance. I'm considering to try to point street trees are additional cost on it's a pretty as well.
Right, kind of a cool answer. I know there's some trees preferred for city projects because we're talking about like ones we have.
And Dr. Please replace street trees.
So we're using some systems that keep roots down versus wasting some down. We're also using some corner circle soil and a different pavement detail that's more robust than what we're using downtown. It has more of a very minimal asphalt base in here.
And I think I recall talking about it, that'd be in the on the Lafountain.
Yeah, correct. That's going to work to change roots. You have to afford certain standard.
What about the code? I was going to see if there's more support for what you said. But for the moving sidewalks, you can see space for trees on one side, so we can take the trees everything.
So maybe a question I was actually doing, because then I have brought in for folks who are working on this expertise in ADA compliance. I think is 5 feet is the minimum?
So 3 is the minimum. So we need 5 maintain trees. So I think there's like 3 is the minimum by 20%. So
gotcha. So that shift from 6 to 5 would probably be good.
And I guess one concern for us is it's not parking trees all on the same one side. It's just that creates a perspective you want to slow down. I don't want to say. I just think.
I should have one first. That's something really different. And it's something like there's complex. So one issue we would have is our utilities in this order. They're kind of back sides. I think that's fine, but that would probably be a good idea. Yeah.
So to the point of the roundabouts, and the question was asked earlier, is it going to slow people down and cars right over them?
They can, but it's going to be abrupt. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of design almost like the agents of physical art now. It's like 45 curve. It's pleasant. It almost like speed bump. Yeah, you can also design so very easy to drive over. So that's really detailed. Actually, any design that you make it's abrupt enough that it's really not long to drive over.
And to take just obvious, the reintroduction. What's the most important thing on? Where it's going to be around there? Never thoughts is long term.
I do think the intent of the group was to take your point, from our own. It's not for a young for example, basically trying to take this long term and try to as a short term, so that informed conditional feedback, as you know, probably more than 10 years before we land on in the time industry funding for it. And then, if I engineer that, I mean, so between now and we actually have to have a lot of time, there's a lot of change.
Yeah, I still have to do these whatever on the street, and then at that point we would this like short term experience. So that's another question maybe for discussion is on short term.
That's not necessarily recommended short term.
And that's just probably my thoughts. I feel more strongly about long term than I do about short term, primarily because I don't I have concern about the long-term components in the PJ that's related to short term. So to me, I have more needs about long term than I do about short term.
So this is short term recommended. Can you speak to the comment brought about these flex holes and buildings pavement seeing observation?
Yeah, so we there was some data about those. We appreciate it because I think I can't speak to the degradation of pavement, but it does. These buildings here creating sort of a water to get into the minor bases, not great. But I don't know if you've had any experience building any of these.
I'm not sure if they fill holes, but possibly we were to reinstall on the back. So yeah, had bad experience where the lessons I don't get used anymore.
We could check to see what their experiences are. Maybe they're usually better.
Well, so we have just given road direction that we would take, so we shouldn't even be considering sort of pilot a pulling this on both sides. And so if we are, I guess, probably not planning, right here. I agree with the comments from the public meetings about saying nothing super effective, not something that we can probably force continuing for multiple years. If the short term is meant to and the long term, can I get some additional thoughts to go in and make the direction long term?
I do recommend if the roadway does errors in lanes, it's probably worth piloting that. That means it's so much, but it's significant error. So just take feedback on people that's really comfortable. That might be worth it. And that maybe sorry.
Jump release, reaching feet.
And so yeah, I mean, you can get a feel for that later.
And those person more stressful.
I've never seen photos of photos usually. I've never seen photos that seem to pull up a photos like installed. And so like, I'm assuming you head from the lane or just down there's a out on the street, I can multiple street, a lot of close. It's like fit an appeal neighborhood, I think, so like I see forms of restriction.
To be honest, I just want to be clear that Nathan wasn't doing the whole.
Yeah, I'm sure I focused in this. Yeah, no, I appreciate the cover for that. Yeah, I don't know if you would just recommend to use that down the street. No, that's all that's available.
There are, can you touch those real quick? So there are things on our list that are low profile, only 5 to 8 centimeters at most, have to be consensus, that would also get fixed to, they but not take posts. The downside to those is that people don't see them as much as opposed to they hit them more often, paying attention, and those sorts of things, that they don't get there, maybe attention.
I also, short-term here extended once per year, $200,000 is not insignificant. We think about the conversation we just had.
Well, that's great. I think, as far as, like I said, if you were a teacher, we do as part of researching projects, and then meeting training, and as far as the roundabouts, we could probably form those ourselves as well. So I suspect, that's probably, and I appreciate how green it is, very like high level sort of investment. I think it's probably something we could just commission researching. And then there's also, if we were researching, they probably go actually like there's like an NDC one to make some enhancements. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be an increase over just researching.
We can say we are supportive of the short-term recommendation with a real long term.
Yeah, we have to take out that.
Certainly. We have everything.
I mean, this is a session, so I don't know on that. I don't feel like what the reasonable structure is, so I understand.
Okay. What else would be helpful to the project team at this point?
Would you, so I think that, what we have is all the feedback we've got so far, and less of this, and then we first feedback made was, I say, not the party, because I'll say probably the main reason we did this was to feel that party piece, and because it was so realized, if folks want to see it, we'll need to create something else, and so we look at this based on all that whole feedback. So I don't know if it's worth taking back the mission, or comes back to you, try to get some outreach, because we were listening to folks, we're the same body, so I'll take that to you all, but I'm not sure we're not missing some outreach.
I think about outreach design, we're saying that people want the same thing, and I think we heard that, and for us excited that for other reasons on top of that, we need to create something, and I understand that the design came from a series of 3 meetings, 3 advisory meetings, right? But it's never all something you're doing, and I think we've heard nothing but to say that to pretty popular, is not about giving.
In terms of things like support, so it was I understand the direction probably you want to parking for like the street and just helping the size of that larger.
Yeah, that would make sense. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think we'll sorry for the adjustments being made.
So you can assess, you're looking at making some design changes, and is that the mayor's design that's now going back to public comment, is that correct? Are we agreeing on that, that's what your organization is? Okay, but it's, so we design based off feedback, but we have voted for me.
We not voted formally, however, we have given direction to them. But I can't this anymore. This is how scope says always work. We provide direction only. Do I have a motion to provide direction for a redesign that contains parking on both sides, streets on the other, private sidewalks to accommodate that? Motion by Councilor McDowell, say aye. Those opposed? Okay. Formal direction.
You have an estimated desired time frame that we need to come back to you? Okay, just, I don't get it, like that for that.
And if you have a process, it sounded like earlier, Ken said, you can provide through Tom's question, so what would it cost you to redesign and invite council to
So I think it's part of the reason that's still within engineering, this goes back to additional costs, and there's also costs, right, where it's still in like here.
I think we would, so, kind of want to take across a little bit, so.
And then sort of construction piece of the sort of revised alternative. My guess is that that's something that OSP can provide as part of this next round. And I expect probably not, and, you John, for this level.
Is there a amount not to exceed that you want to set for redesign?
Well, right here, I'm surprised that this would be because these studies also force us. We see them as a discussion item for the purpose of being able to finalize.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not going to be a whole lot of it, it's just more modification things, and this usually has a little cost in here. So, yes, I think we probably do this within these things, so I don't know if we need that.
If we follow standards here, cost of the 10 combos. Yeah.
Oh, it's 20% match, so the cost of it would not be, that's not.
Okay.
This is no more than $5,000 worth.
Might be saying.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. All set. Thank you again. As mentioned, I would motion by Brent, second by Councilor Davis. Thank you.
I couldn't even the park that's already there.
Hi.
We could put in a fence.
I don't think we're allowed to. I don't think we're allowed to put a fence there.